Yeah, okay, I think that's long enough. Ugh, nobody is here. Well, I guess I shouldn't really be too surprised. Maybe at some point I should contact Gone with John or somebody else to see about getting videos actually made to start this shit off, so that way people actually know that this isn't some sort of a game. I don't even know why I'm talking, to be honest. No one's here. Oh no. Well, I don't even know. Oh, hey, look at that. Ghost Shura. How's it going, brother? Welcome to the Freak Show, which is population me. Yay. Thought today would be a good time to do stuff because it looks like nobody else is streaming right now, at least not that I saw. And it's not exactly like I have a lot of opportunities to do this kind of crap. Any stories from Crazy X's? You mean like recent or at any point in time? Because I'm still in somewhat regular contact with one of them, and it's only because she and I have a child together. So doing good. Fixed my 10mm Ronin. Nice. Always a good thing to get things all fixed up, ready to go. Any point. Okay, well, the first story that comes to my mind. So, this was about 6.5, 7 years ago, probably closer to 6. Um, so I was still working the same job that I currently have, which is as a uh, custodian at my local community college. And at the time, my hours were something like 4 to 12:30 or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm in the process of leaving for home, and my son, who at the time was 3, uh, did the exact same thing that he always did every single time I stepped out of the house, which was he comes to me, reaching up, doesn't want me to leave, wants daddy to stay home. And, honestly, at first, well, not at first, but for many years, I thought it was just a case of son loves daddy, which I mean is true. But apparently, a lot of it is because mommy doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to him, just kind of leaves him off to his own and basically just made mac and cheese for him when he was hungry. But as for this particular moment that I'm trying to get at, so at the time we lived in an apartment complex that had a small playground unit just right outside of our uh, building, just right there, right next to it. You can look out from 2 of our bedrooms and see the playground set up just fine. And oh, Ghost, you actually have something in common with me. Yeah, woo. No, but so my son would occasionally play on this, and of course I was usually the one who took him out to do this, because what kind of a dumbass would let their 3-year-old out alone, kind of a thing. But as I'm trying to leave, his mom, my ex, which we were exes at this point, but we had agreed to continue to live together as friends who were taking care of their child together. We thought it would have been the easiest thing to do since, we did have a kid, and it's not like either one of us hated each other. We just ended the relationship. So it made sense at the time. But, she's like, come on, son, let's go ahead and put you down for nap time. Which with her could mean one of two things. One, put him down for a nap so I can play World of Warcraft in peace, or put him down for a nap so that way I can take a nap as well because I'm a lazy cow. This particular story that I'm sharing was the latter. Mommy wanted to take a nap as well. So once I leave, they go down, and about maybe 2 hours later, so about an hour, hour and a half into my shift, I get a phone call from her saying how the management for the apartments dropped off our son. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? So typical woman, she's just kind of bouncing around back and forth with her storytelling. So she told me that what had happened was they both went to sleep. And at some point, he woke up while she was still asleep. I have no idea if my son tried to wake her up or not, but he took it upon himself to leave the apartment and go out to the playground. And he played there for God knows how long, possibly making himself vulnerable to some sort of a creepy kidnapping pervert. Now, thankfully, the person who saw him was a good enough natured person to contact the front office. Be like, hey, I don't know who this kid is. I don't know if he lives on the premises or not, but there's a 3-year-old on the playground by himself. So the manager came over and just so happened to have recognized who he was. He recognized that it was my son, brought him up to the apartment, rang the doorbell, and that is apparently what woke up my ex. She saw that sorry, I almost said the name of my kid. She had noticed that our son was not there. Starts freaking out, but is also like, I'll worry about finding him later. I'm going to answer this door. And so sure enough, when the management was there, there's our son. And she's letting him know, or the manager is letting my ex know what happened. And so now she's all panicking and freaking, and that's why she gave me a phone call being like, our son could have gotten kidnapped because of my neglect. And no, she didn't word it this way, but oh my gosh. I was so close to coming home just so I could strangle her. I mean, I wouldn't have actually strangled her if I came home, but man, she would have gotten one hell of an earful. But since everything was okay on their end, I stayed home. I stayed at work. Although with how often I'm here at work, I feel like I'm at home. Which, by the way, I am at work right now. I'm not actually on the clock yet. I'm actually here to do some overtime, so I could basically start whenever the hell I want. But I thought I would take advantage of the free Wi-Fi. Or more accurately, the nice, spacious room where I don't have to worry about obnoxious noises or anything like that. Make her sleep on the couch. Well, with her, I don't think that would have made a difference. I think the only place that she would have been able to not get a decent amount of sleep would have been the bathtub. But even then, she and I slept in different beds, so in like different rooms at this point in time. She had her bedroom, I had my bedroom. So it's not exactly like I could say, you have to sleep on the couch. I mean, because we weren't sharing a bed together anymore. So, but no, I definitely understand where you're going with that, Ghost. So I did give her one hell of a lecture, and I was like, you do realize we could have lost our son, right? We know some people who are into kids who have warned us that he's adorable enough to where creeps like him, well, not so much creeps like him specifically, but the really creepy kid lovers will possibly target him and take them if they see an opportunity. She knew that. She knew that damn good and well. And the only reason why we knew these guys was because, unfortunately, with it being a community college, that means everybody is here, which includes the degenerates, the sex criminals. And yes, human trafficking is definitely not a joke, which is all the more reason why that Eliza Blue bitch deserves to get in trouble somehow. As soon as I saw her and heard that was what she was trying to do, I'm like, prove it. I don't believe you. And that was before I knew about any other sort of thing. But yeah, no, it's definitely not a joke, and it's very it's horrible. So I really do think that it gave her like this major wake up call. She had agreed that she was going to do everything in her power, never to take an afternoon nap if I was gone during that time period. She would only sleep when I was at home, or if it's like in the dead of the night when everybody should be asleep, including our son, kind of a thing. Yeah, no, it's the fact that my son was able to reach the locking mechanism on the door and open up the handle itself, which our lock was, well, we actually have two, but there's the one kind that's like 3 inches above the actual knob itself. He was able to reach that just fine. And there's the other one, the kind that's the chain where you can like slide it in through. That's like 5 feet off the ground. Obviously, he couldn't reach that, but apparently it wasn't latched on. And my guess is because one of our roommates, if I recall correctly, one of our roommates was working a shift at that time, so it would have seemed kind of cold-hearted to do that. So kids are smarter than we give them credit for. That is true. However, in this case, I attribute it more of me being surprised that he was physically able to do it. I don't remember the name of the kind of lock, but it's the kind where you like turn it, and there's like a fat metal bar that slides from inside the door into the siding there. The one that we had is it was kind of a tough one to work with. So that's what I'm trying to get at with saying that I'm surprised he was able to do it, because that was a tough thing to turn. But you are right. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. So, anyways, that's that particular story. Do you want me to share another story, or do you want me to go ahead and go with the what I was wanting to share that was actually the title of this video, or why I titled it the way I did? I will leave that up to you, Ghost, since you're here. Oh, the question. Didn't you have a book or comic you were working on? Yes. I am currently taking a comic book writing class at the college that I work at. I actually just submitted the first draft or the first few pages a couple days ago, and I'm supposed to be doing an assignment that's due sometime on Sunday, which that is I have to read somebody else's submission and basically give polite feedback. So, which I'm not really worried about that. That rarely takes any more than an hour to do. So, but yeah, so I do have that going on. Title of video is fine. All right, so as I had said, I'm at work right now, so I'm not able to plug this laptop into my home monitor. I do have the HDMI cable. I finally found the damn thing. But before I do that, you have a really good question right here. Was your comic in real life or your imagination? A little bit of both. I've taken a few different real life stories and I've kind of spliced them together. The original one that I first based it off of was one where it was a guy in the United Kingdom who he and his wife had already done a divorce by this point in time. But by the time his 3 boys were in their 20s, he went into the doctor for some medical reason, and he had I don't remember what the condition was, but it was one of those kinds to where it makes it to where he's very unlikely to be able to reproduce. In fact, the doctors kind of looked over it again and again. They're like, yeah, you're one of these people. You are never able to make children, and you never will be able to make children. So that's kind of how he knew that his wife had all these different affairs and that none of his kids were his. And somehow he was able to get the courts to force her to give back at least some of the money that he gave her in alimony and child support over the years. And so, of course, the 3 boys, they hated him as a result of it. But it's like, what does he care? You're not their dad. You're not his kids anymore. So that was the original starting point. I threw in details of different stories that I've heard over the years that were basically the exact same thing, where Daddy found out because somebody decided to do a DNA test for some sort of reason. Like that 23andMe company. In my comic, they're going to be basing it off of. Damn, he played the Uno card. Yeah, he played the Uno card and he actually succeeded. That's the funny thing, especially in the UCK. That's what's funny about that. But yeah, so there have been lots of cases where people will go to 23andMe as a family, and as a result, find out that the child or children involved were not sired by the dad. So there's that I threw in as well. And of course, how many stories have we heard in this circle of guys online where the end result was of the man deleting himself from reality? No more. Minecrafted himself, I guess, is a current way that some people are saying it. Never understood that one, but self-deleted. That one works for me. But in the story, about halfway through it, my character is going to make an attempt, and he's going to do it via rope. And he's going to fail because when he made the attempt, he was so drunk that he didn't realize that he didn't tie the knot at all. So he basically just fell to the ground, and he was asleep. He was found laying on the floor asleep by a friend of his, who I'm basing this friend off of Hammerhand. And the second half of the comic is basically the Hammerhand character, as well as another character that I'm throwing in as well, who's going to be loosely based off of oh, damn it, I just drew a blank. Sir Yedis. Sir Yedis. He's going to be loosely based off of Sir Yedis, and they're basically going to talk some words of encouragement. The entire idea of it is to try and provide words of encouragement for anybody who might be reading the comic who may or may not be contemplating self-deletion themselves. Which my teacher, oh, hey, Mr. Pliskins. What's up, brother? Welcome to the very, very small chats. But yeah, so my instructor really wanted it to be about the story of the main character who's going through it, which his name is Adam Mann. Last name is Mann because this is something that men go through a lot, and Adam because it means man. I mean, I literally tried giving him a name that was about as generic, this is for men, as much as I possibly could. Yep, countless men have done this kind of crap. Absolutely. But yeah, the instructor wanted me to try to have it be about the story of Adam. Why do we care about Adam? And I'm like, it's not that type of story. It's not the story of Adam Mann. It's the story of men who are trying not to end themselves. But no, he didn't understand it. He also seemed to have not liked the idea that the story was intended to be geared towards men. He's like, it's a comic. It should be geared towards everyone. And I so wanted to throw it in his face that that's not how the comic book industry goes. There are so many comics that are designed for a very specific niche demographic. You take a look at he occasionally mentions manga, which I don't know if you guys give two craps about manga. It's Japanese comics. It's where most anime is based off of. But a lot of anime and manga falls under a category called shonen, which is anime that is intended to be primarily for young boys and teenage boys. So stuff like My Hero Academia, Bleach, stuff like that. Which could include a lot of stuff. And then there's also, I can't remember the name of it, but there's different genres with anything within anime. And it's like that with comics as well. And you take a look at stuff like Marvel and DC, they're doing things with a lot of different characters that are clearly trying to be geared towards a very specific demographic. Hold on. You should throw in a loner who opts out of society, like he sees the world for what it is, and a friend who has rose-tinted glasses on. I kind of thought about doing that with the Hammerhand character specifically. But at the same time, this comic is supposed to be 8 pages. Or 12 if I want extra points accumulated. But no more than 12 is what he said. And that's mainly because when you do, according to him, when you do actual professional submissions like this, they want you to do 4 pages at a time or 8 pages at a time, because it's the amount of pages that there are on one single piece of paper that you can fold up. And So I thought that made sense. But since it's going to be just a short, small amount of work that I have, I decided not to do that type of character. However, if I was to do like an entire comic series, which I will admit I did kind of toy around with, having it focused morely on the kids themselves, um, then I would consider it. It'd be more than likely that I would do that. But in any case, like with comic book movies, I really wanted to throw this in his face. It's like you do realize that Captain America comics currently have it to where Captain America, hates the fact that he is white, he hates being white privileged, and Red Skull is Jordan Peterson telling people that they need to clean their rooms. That's clearly not trying to make the comics pander to everyone. That's clearly being political with their messaging. That's clearly separating people out. But I work here and I don't want this to possibly come back and kick me in the ass. I don't want to talk to HR because I'm talking about art. The new Marvel movie titled The Marvels will flop, just my view. I hope it does. I hope it does. These movies need to flop. They need to stop making shit. And people who are just into comic book movies for the sake of being into comic book movies, they need to stop. I mean, there used to be a time where comic book movies were made with the intent to at least try to pander to comic book fans because it's the comic book fans that made the industry last more than a year. What if you took further outside of class, like in your spare time? Yeah, that's something that I am kind of toying around with, Ghost. Actually, absolutely. Anti-Captain America, the woke mobs. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much how most of the Marvel and DC comics are going nowadays, and some are clearly more obvious than others. So it's pretty fucking disgusting as far as that goes. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with the comic book stuff. I have yet to meet my comic artist, which apparently is not required for this class, but it's something that I would like to do. At the same time that my class is going on, there's an art class going on where they're learning how to draw comics. And that instructor and my instructor, they've been doing this kind of stuff for a few years together now, and they have it to where my scripts, the writer's scripts will be given to the artist's scripts and they will draw them. Now, I have seen a couple of styles that are being done by my artist. They're not bad, but then again, they were like quick little sketches, so I don't think they were trying to go in like so much detail. Plus, the way that I've written the script is there's not going to be a whole lot of scenes that have background detail. So if they want to throw shit in, as far as that goes, I'm fine with it, just so long as they get the key points of what's going on, which is that this is supposed to be an emotional roller coaster. It's supposed to be talking about people who can connect to a certain feeling or an idea. You guys remember those religious tracts that were really popular in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s that churches, like members of the churches would hand out to random people on the streets, be like, here, Jesus loves you. That was that's kind of how I want this comic to be. It's something kind of along those lines. Just about every single one of those tracks, nobody had a specific name given to them except Jesus and God, and maybe they would name one of the angels. But aside from that, if you were a normal person character in one of these religious tracks, fuck all if anybody knew your name. Hell, my absolute favorite one of those was one where the main character is a little girl. We never get her name. Nobody ever talks throughout the entire thing. You're literally just looking at images of this girl going through absolute shit until she dies and an angel comes and takes her to heaven. The angel is the first character who talks. And the reason why we don't get any dialogue, the reason why we don't get any names is because it does not matter for that story. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this comic. That stuff is not relevant. What was the gem you were talking about earlier? Oh. Honestly, I don't even remember talking about a gem. And, I probably did say something was a gem. I don't remember, though, if I'm to be entirely honest. Sorry. Maybe if you can hum a few bars. Not literally, obviously, but yeah, I really don't know. So do. Mr. Pliskins, are you still in here? Looks like the last time that you posted was like 9 minutes ago. Wrenching on cards as usual. FML. FML. Oh. Fluff my life. I get it. I get it. I get it. Ghost, are you laughing at me because my memory sucks? You're only 40, Whiskey. Yeah, I know. But yay, Mr. Pliskins is still here. You're alive. Alrighty. So do you guys want me to go ahead and just get into the video that I thought would be kind of fun to share? Make some comments on. He lives. Yes, he lives. As does Adam Man, the hero of the comic. Well, I think I'll go ahead and start playing it. So since I'm doing this at work and I don't have a second monitor, let alone my HDM cord, but oh, hang on a second. I see something about Japan. My inner weeaboo bidding on some parts at a Japanese auction house. I'm assuming that means car parts and not body parts. Wait, hold on. What? You sound 20. Oh, thank you, Ghost. But no, I double that. I'm 40. I'm a 40-year-old son of a bitch. Maybe I just sound young because I don't hate myself. Or maybe it's because I took a little bit of a nap before doing this shit. So, or it could just be the fact that I have a Y chromosome instead of a pair of X's. I don't know. But yeah, I think I'll go ahead and get going with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm still going to play it, and hopefully you guys will hear it okay. In the description, I've included a link to the actual video in case you guys wanted to watch it, to look at it, which I will give you a heads up. Some of the people in this video are kind of frightening looking. There's a guy who I would actually say is probably a decent looking guy. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say handsome, but certainly not revolting. I don't think. Okay, there's a female who I don't want to say she's bangable, but maybe if you drink enough of my kin, she would be young at heart. Oh, thank you, Ghost. I really appreciate that. All right, so the video is one of those BuzzFeed abominations that came out about 6 or 7 years ago. Well, actually, it's probably about 7 or 8 years now. Towards the end of President Obama's time in office. So, of course, this is when a lot of the whole race bullshit was really starting to rev up because, God forbid, if anybody dared say anything negative about Obama's policies, But they did a series of things. A lot of people on the internet, me in particular, commented on one specific video that they did, which was 36 questions women have for men. In fact, a couple of years ago, I revisited that video and did everything all over again. And I also did it for their questions that Asians have for white people, mostly as a fun way of kind of paying tribute to a friend of mine who was Asian, who had actually offed himself about a month prior, actually. It was not because of a woman. It was because, at least as far as anybody knew, he did it because of the whole overall feeling loneliness during the particular pandemic that I think our YouTube overlords still don't like having certain people talking about. So this one in particular is one of those videos. And because of it being February, yes, it is the one where Black people have questions for whites. The specific title, 24 questions Black people have for white people. And I have counted these. It's not 24 questions. And that's something that I noticed with all these BuzzFeed videos where they actually numbered the questions. They don't know how to count. Plain and simple, they don't know how to count unless there are certain questions that they aren't counting with the questions. Like the one where it was the questions that women have for men. They said it was 36. When I counted it, it was 37. So they were off by one. And I think it's the one where the one gal's like, "Do you have a coochie?" I think that's the one question that was asked that they themselves did not count, even though it is a question. I don't remember how many there are in the black people one. I think it's still like 26, 27. So, but anyways, we're going to go ahead and go through this. Hopefully you guys will read it well. Or why did I say read it well? Hear it well. Media. Okay, so it's at this point where they're showing the category media and culture because this is leftists. They care about media and culture so much that they think that that's real life. Why do you always make such horrible decisions in horror movies? Because it's horror. Everybody in these movies, with the exception of maybe one or two people, are supposed to be dumber than a box of rocks. That's part of the joy of watching these people die. Yes, Goshura, coochie. They actually asked that question. Do you have a coochie? It's not cool to split up. The funny thing about that is that depends on the situation, from a strategic viewpoint. However, you're talking about horror movies, which, depending on the situation, doesn't make a damn difference. Did you ever watch Freddy versus Jason? That movie, I don't care what anyone says, that movie was fun as fuck. And realistically speaking, as far as all these different horror legends from the 80s smushing together, those two in particular, that's probably as good of a story as they probably could have come up with that wouldn't have been absolutely fucking dumb. It was close, but when you get kind of closer to the end of the movie, or even kind of towards the middle part where Jason shows up and he's butchering the crap out of all these party kids, how many of them are there? Dozens. You're seriously telling me that all of them versus one guy that mattered? I mean, yeah, they split up because they were all in a running panic because all of them are fucking pussies. But at the same time, I'm sorry, they were all a bunch of coochies. But at the same time, numbers don't mean shit in these movies because people need to die for the movies to continue on. That is the point. Well, Mr. Pliskin brought up an interesting point. Forgot who won. Technically, Jason won. And the reason why I say that is because Freddy did, in fact, well, I'm not going to say he did, in fact, die because it's fucking Freddy. But Jason's not even the one who dealt the death blow to Freddy. It was the forgettable blonde. The hero of the movie, because girl power or whatever fuck the thought process was, she's the one who did it. She had Jason's machete and cut off Freddy's head. And at the end of the movie, Jason comes out of the water with Freddy's head. So it looks like Jason won, but then they get close to They get close to Freddy's face and he looks at the camera and he winks. So he's not dead. So I guess it kind of depends on how you want to define win. You could say Jason won because he was the one who didn't get decapitated. You could say Freddy won because he survived the decapitation. You could say the woman won because she's the one who dealt the death blow and was able to get away from the two psychopathic murdering monsters. Or you could say that nobody won because it was, as much as I liked the movie, it was a terrible movie at the same time. I will say this, the only female in that movie who I thought was hot, she definitely didn't win. She was one of the first kills. But that's kind of the way that these things go, too. It's like, yeah, let's kill off the hot chick who has no problem showing off her tits in the movie. Yeah. Oh, no, wait, there was another one in the movie who was also pretty damn good looking, too. The very, very opening scene, there's the gal who comes out. She's about ready to dive into the Crystal Lake. She opens up her shirt. I get boobies, because I guess she thinks there's a guy there. And Jason comes up and kills her. It's just so stupid. But yeah, as far as the question that was brought up this time, again, it depends on the role. But usually it's because it's done for the sake of a diversity quota and nothing else. You know, there's that show that came out like a year, maybe two ago, where they were telling the story of one of England's queens. I think it's been so long since I've seen or heard anything about it, so I'm probably going to get this wrong. But I think it was one of the queens who married King Richard III. You know, the guy who established divorce being perfectly fine because he was so pissed off that he wasn't able to have a son made and was too stupid to realize that technically it's his sperm's fault. But he wanted to blame it on these different women. So some of them got beheaded, some of them were put in prison, some of them were divorced. You know, that's that kind of crap. They had the first one replaced by a black woman, and she's supposed to be English. It's silly. You know, and I've seen this brought up with other people before, usually leftists. In fact, I think they did this in one of the BuzzFeed videos where sometimes Native American characters are played by white people, you know, people who are as white as Senator Warren. I can kind of understand that. It's like they don't look like natives because they're not natives. So those roles should be done by natives. That would make sense, right? So at the same time, when you have a character who is English during a time period where English was a bloodline and not, hey, you were born here in England, it takes things away from the meaning of the show and makes it unbelievable. And for what purpose? Why do it? Could you imagine if T'Challa, or whatever the hell his name was, from Black Panther, if he was pasty white, but yet we're supposed to pretend that that's supposed to be a black person? We're supposed to pretend that's an African? Yeah, there'd be people pissed off left and right. Same thing. Exact same thing. He's too old. The first time I reviewed this video, it was way back when I went by my previous account name. I wasn't called A Shot of Whiskey at the time. I was called Tessa Fowler for Wife, which, for those of you who are here, I seriously doubt you guys were around when I went by that name. Tessa Fowler is a softcore variant of what some of the more recent Strags have been complaining about. You know, ladies like Riley, Lana, and Mia. She did the softcore version of that stuff. And which is actually one of the reasons why I liked her content. There were no peepees in the scene. You just saw a very gorgeous girl showing off her very gorgeous tits. That was it. In fact, now that I think about it, I don't think there's a single video in which there's a guy even shown. But I chose that name to make fun of the types of people who would simp for these types of, you know, quote unquote celebrities. I mean, you guys hang around on Chronic streams, and I'm sure you guys have heard him occasionally pointing out that sometimes when he has one of these cucks on his streams, he'll ask them a question: would you marry a porn star? Well, I'm making fun of those types of people. I would, for many years, I would have loved the chance to have boffed Tessa Fowler. And I'm not gonna lie, I still might actually. She's only 30 and she's still pretty damn good looking. There's no way in hell I'd wife that up. Somebody already has. Somebody has wifed her up. But it ain't me. But as far as Idris Elba goes, playing James Bond, he is a character who, as I understand it, the franchise began with books, and it specifies that he's a white-skinned, very blonde-haired individual. So in a way, it's kind of the same thing. Oh, what's this? They said Michael Cera couldn't play back Black Panther for obvious reasons. Yeah, exactly. Strag power. Now, as far as just the overall idea of a black man playing James Bond, I personally would not entirely say no to the idea. A lot of that is because I'm not a James Bond fan, so I don't really care if the franchise goes straight to hell. But at the same time, I know there's a lot of people who do like James Bond. So for their sake, I would like them to try to pick an actor who can act and can do the role well. And if it's going to be a black person, okay, fine. Just make sure that it's someone who can act and who's young enough to where they can do that kind of stuff. Idris Elba's not at that point. In fact, I've even heard in an interview a while ago that the topic had come up to him. He was like, I don't want to be James Bond. Hell no. So he does not agree with this lady, which, by the way, she's the one who I talked about, who she's not bad looking. I mean, she's not great either. I mean, if you drink a few of my kin, then I can understand wanting to tap this. But just her as it is, nah. Mia K married and divorced twice already. Yeah, she has. I feel, I don't know who I feel more bad for, guy number 2 or guy number 1. But either way, they were both fucking stupid. They both knew what she did beforehand. So whatever. You probably would. Okay, now before I have her finish that question, this is being asked by the ugliest person in the video. She's talking about attractive white women, and yet here she is. She looks like a rat, a pig-nosed rat. She ain't pretty. She shouldn't be worried about what makes a white woman attractive. She's not even an attractive black woman. See, I have no problem saying that there are attractive black women. Good God, there are some good-looking black women. But just like with black women, there's also some ugly white women. Attractiveness is not specifically for one race. There's ugly women in all races. There's attractive women in most races. And I only say most because I've heard that there's a couple of what do I want to say? Some of the Inuits, and I'm basing this entirely off of one person's opinion. Apparently the Inuits, none of their women are good looking. So take that as what you will. But generally speaking, you can't necessarily say that this one race has the uglies, this one race has the hotties. Oh, hey, Mr. Pliskin. Sidney Poitier could have been the only one able to play 007, in my opinion. You know, I think I've heard of him. Here, you know what? I've got the internet. Sidney Poitier. Oh, him! You know, you might be onto something. He might have been a good 007. You may be onto something there, Mr. Pliskins. You may be onto something. All right, so why is a big butt and big lips considered attractive on a white woman, but I have a feeling she's hearing that from other black men and not from white men. That's just my take. However, I will say this. Just saying big lips and big butts doesn't necessarily mean anything. A lot of it has to do with proportionality. Like, if you guys see what this girl's face looks like, she's got big, fatty lips. But they look like they're like giant sausage fingers that have been slapped onto someone's face. They're not good-looking lips. And there's probably white women that have similarly big lips that look freakishly odd. And I'm not I'm not mentioning the ones who got plastic surgery done. Obviously, those ones are weird looking, but that's not because they're white with big lips. It's because they're fake lips that make them look like Howard the Duck. But as far as the big butts go, it's kind of the same thing. A big butt isn't necessarily an attractive thing. A lot of it depends on why it's a big butt. Like if it looks like you've got enough lard in there to fry all the tacos in the world, that's not a good looking big butt. I don't care if it's sealed in white plastic or black plastic. It's not a good look. Similarly, okay, this is going to sound kind of a little creepy, but I want to give you guys a heads up. I'm not meaning it in a creepy way. One of my sisters has a really nice ass. She's white, obviously. She's partially Italian. She's a half sister, so that's where the Italian comes from. I don't have any Italian in me whatsoever. She does. And I've actually joked with her about this, saying, you got your big ass from your Italian side. But it's in good shape, or I should say it was in good shape. The last 10, 15 years haven't been too kind on her because she's a mother. But I will tell you what, it's still a better looking butt than some of the women of both white and black races that I have seen who look like they eat fat people. I gotta share this. Hates big booty. You know, to be entirely honest, I'm not a butt person in general. I mean, yeah, I do like a nice butt, but the thing is I can see a nice butt in a small, petite little thing, as well as a decent sized amount of hips. Like, several years ago, I did these response videos to Planet Dolan questions, which I don't know if you guys know who Planet Dolan is, or what it was, but they eventually got to a point to where they were big enough to where they had a decent sized following, and people would respond to questions that they would put up on Reddit, and they would say what their favorite responses were to these. And after a while, I'm like, I'm just going to go ahead and answer my own version of these. And one of them, I brought up a story of this gal who was 2 years younger than me. This was in high school, by the way, where I had no idea that my locker room, or the locker room that the guys were in, was partially open, and she and one of her friends saw me completely naked. And this is at a time when I worked out on a regular basis, so I was fit. I wasn't like muscular, but I was definitely toned. You can see muscular detail in me. And yeah, apparently they liked what they saw, enough so to where the one girl that I mentioned in the story decided to become a cheerleader for the wrestling team the following year, the one and only sport that I ever did. And she went out of her way to talk to me on multiple occasions. I really do think she liked what she saw. But she was one of those really small, petite girls, and she still had a nice, petite little butt. So, to me, it's not necessarily so much a case of how big is it, but does it look like your butt is one of decent quality, or does it look like you ate somebody of decent quality? All right, so now we're going to have a question coming up from the guy who I said is not bad looking. Oh, hang on. Ghost, you brought up something. Remember Wolf of Wall Street? Hey, if anyone gonna blank my cousin, it might as well be. Which, by the way, Ghost, I think you were one of the guys who brought up the Leonardo DiCaprio movie Catch Me If You Can, the last stream that I did. Yeah, that was not the one I was thinking of. But I did see that one too. To be entirely honest, I'd forgotten that was Leonardo to begin with. But that was a good film. So anyways, back to this questions video. So yeah, apparently when Miley Cyrus did that twerk at one of her concerts, she was like 19, 20, some shit like that. And she was doing it quite literally in front of the genitals of some guy who was twice her age. I don't remember what his name was. But I'm assuming that this guy heard white people say that Miley Cyrus created twerking. I never heard anybody say this because I don't surround myself with fucking morons. What I did hear from my fellow whiteys was what she did was apprehensible because little girls look up to her. Oh, and by the way, he's old enough to be her daddy, so that's an extra taboo because we should be the ones grinding our butts on his junk because we're twice her age too, or whatever kind of nonsense. Basically, going back to the Leonardo crap. God forbid a guy in his 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, dates a girl who's 20. But it's like it was a performance. And as far as I could tell, they weren't even touching. But yeah, I don't know anyone who saw that particular performance and thought that she had invented butt shaking. I really don't think anybody did. And I think it's really funny that they chose this question out of every question to zoom into the person's face. Like they just asked one of the most profound questions of our species history. Really? That shoo sound that you guys heard when he was about to say really? That was them zooming into this guy. What a waste of a zoom. I don't want you to teach me how to twerk. Oh my gosh. So at the moment that I paused it, I swear Miss Pig Rat here, if you paint her face white and throw in like some little green specks here and there, she would look like a female Black Joker. Just an absolute creepy face. I don't want you to teach me how to twerk. I really don't. And any white woman who would ask you to teach them how to twerk must have very low standards. I don't know how to twerk. Good. Because it's a discovery for them. See, this is something that I've noticed with the left a lot with the word discovery. They don't know what the fuck it means. Okay? Just because some people have done this, it doesn't mean everybody around the fucking world automatically knows it as soon as it happens. Like, okay, you know what? Video games. Here's a good one. Skyrim. I'm bringing this up because I'm currently replaying it all over again. Skyrim came out in 2011. I didn't know that it existed until 2013. And I didn't know that it was part of a 5-game franchise that had games going as far back as the 80s. These were all discoveries for me. I discovered this had already happened. Now, granted, millions of other people have been playing these games before me. That still doesn't mean that I did not discover this. Okay, her question's not finished. Oh, hey, hold on. Mr. Pliskin. It was invented by Brazilians from Carnival. I'm assuming you're talking about twerking. I can believe that. I know that there are some Black people who will take on this opinion that it's something that Africans have done for thousands of years as part of some sort of religious ceremony. And I'm not even kidding. I've actually heard Black people say that before. I have no idea what the hell kind of a ceremony has their women shaking their asses like Jello in front of a guy's junk or his face. But yeah, okay, whatever. You want to claim that that's part of Black culture, go right ahead. Skyrim Remastered. Yes, that is what I am currently playing. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So, why is a Black woman wearing her hair natural seen as inappropriate? Well, that depends on what you mean by natural. Does she wash it? What kind of a scenario is she in? Is she at work? Does this workplace have strict rules in terms of hair and clothing? I doubt this is the case, but I'm going to throw this out there. What if she works in a wood shop of some sort? You have your hair all poofed out, which, by the way, her hair is poofed out in this. You have your hair poofed out like that, there's a good chance that a machine of some sort is going to grab that hair and yank your head off. That's why they have rules like that. And again, this depends on how you define it as natural. Which, by the way, if you guys watch this video from its original source, her hair looks like it had been dyed blonde at one point. I seriously doubt you're a natural blonde lady. I seriously doubt it. But here's another thing that I've noticed. There are some black people that I have seen who will have like their dreadlocks growing out kind of thing. At least it looks like they're dreadlocks that have been dipped in chocolate and smeared in poop. And they call that natural. That's why it's seen as inappropriate. It's disgusting. You've got dirt and grime and God knows what else all up in that hair. I remember seeing this video once a few years ago of this guy who had hair, that kind of a hairstyle. And they start shaving that hair, and there's lice and bugs and stuff running around in that hair, freaking out because, oh my gosh, our shelter is finally being removed. It was horrible. It's gross. That's why. But here's the rest of the question, and I think it's kind of funny. What white woman has her hair natural? Again, that depends on what you define as natural. I say as soon as she dyes her hair once, I don't care if it's a natural color, it's not natural anymore. Some of these women's shampoos have so many chemicals in them that they're not natural. Some of them are designed to control the frizz or whatever, because some women's hairs just kind of act all weird and shit. One of my sisters actually had that problem for quite a while. Actually, I think it was a conditioner that she started using, a certain type of conditioner that helps to control that. That ain't natural. What do you mean by natural? Define natural. Okay, here's the thing. Her hair, and yes, this is Miss Pigrat. Her hair quite literally looks like it is made out of Brillo pads. It is thick, it is fat, it is curly. Now, this in and of itself is not necessarily an issue. Plus, keep in mind, well, I guess you can't keep it in mind because you're not looking at it. She's got her hair pinned up. That's not natural. She's had it cut, I'm sure, multiple times. That's not natural. So what do you mean by natural? And now she's talking about, this is my hair and you wearing it as a trend is not cute. Okay, tell that to all of your sisters who wear yak hair. Seriously, ask any black guy who's sick of your bullshit, like Sriitis. They'll tell us, yak hair, that ain't natural. How many of you wear weaves and wigs? That ain't natural. Shut the hell up. No. Okay, there's a few reasons for that. The first one, I really, really don't like the idea this is about to come out of my mouth. The first reason is because crime happens a lot more in your community than it does mine. That's just an unfortunate fact. And there's different reasons on it. I mean, I know that there are some black people who want to pin that on white people as a whole, which, from a historic perspective, has a degree of truth to it as well. But most of it nowadays is just people making bad decisions. I mean, how long ago was Jim Crow? Decades. You don't have that as an excuse. You have literally no restrictions as far as government goes, as far as white people holding your back goes. I mean, you have opportunities that I never will because I'm not black. I'm white. Which I know some people are not going to like that I'm going to say this, although it's just you two guys here, so maybe you'll understand and at least respect where I'm going with this. I'm fine with some of those. I'm not a fan of affirmative action. I think it was an understandable thing to have for a little while, just long enough to make sure that the bigoted white people don't prevent black people from having certain jobs. But that's not the case anymore. That's been illegal for many, many years. And as such, affirmative action isn't necessary. Plus, just about every white person who's at that level, they don't want to be portrayed as bigots, whether they are bigoted or not. Hell, a lot of the ones who are not bigoted are so desperate not to come off that way because they don't want to have the left-leaning death squads come after them. So there's that. Another reason why the black crime representation is as high as it is because of the media. The media wants everyone to see what's going on and to try to pin this on white people. Take a look at the whole Black Lives Matter thing. Black Lives Matter was a thing at the time that this video came out. In fact, if I remember correctly, they mentioned Black Lives Matter at least once. So, that's the thing. That's the media narrative. Not too long ago, Whoopi Goldberg had said on The View that cops need to kill more white people, then maybe white people will care enough to stop the police brutality against black people. They kill us more often than they kill you. And most of the time, when a black person gets killed by the cops, it's because the black person started something. They're the ones who pull out a gun or a weapon or don't comply or run away. I mean, granted, running away shouldn't warrant someone dying in certain contexts. Like there's that one guy in South Carolina like 3 years ago. That was unnecessary. That was excessive. But if the person fleeing was, let's say, seen stabbing someone in the throat or tried beating up a cop to steal his gun, case in point, Michael Brown, and tried to flee, chasing after them and possibly shooting at them makes sense. They're a psycho killer. Gangs are a big part of it. There aren't too many white gangs out there, but there's a shit ton of them in the black communities in certain cities, in particular Chicago. That's why Chicago has such a high death rate, despite what their idiot mayor tells them. Mile High Ronin, welcome. It's good to see you, brother. I am reviewing a old BuzzFeed video, and unfortunately, because I'm not at home, I don't have a second monitor to plug into. So unfortunately, you guys are just playing a video as I'm playing it and responding to it. So that's why black crime is represented as represents your entire community and not the whites. Unfortunately, I would like to see it go down by quite a bit. But you know what? That's on you guys. It really is. And I'm not saying that to try to seem like I'm irresponsible with it or not, but get rid of your gangs. That's going to take care of a lot of your problems right there. Okay, that's you. I have actually heard some black people say that white people do that and get away with it. In fact, I'm sure you guys have heard of Velma. That's quite literally a joke that she says at one point. Well, it's supposed to be seen as a joke for us in the audience, but her character, Velma, actually believes that white people get away with killing people, especially rich white people. So, but yeah, a big part of the reason why it comes off that way is because it happens a lot more within the black community. Oh, by the way, they just had something coming up showing the next category, which is, talking about race. Let me back it up a little bit. Yeah, talking about race. Because you're leftists who will try to skin me alive because my skin is not the right color. I'm going to backtrack this a little bit. Close. It's not that I think that, it's that I will. That's a fact of life, especially since I am saying things that the blacks at BuzzFeed would not like hearing. because some of the things that I am saying is putting accountability on them. Because some of these things, it is on them. Most of these questions are just fucking stupid. But some of them, the ones that are actually somewhat serious talking points, they want to pass off all accountability onto the white people and none on them. I don't know if you guys were able to hear him all that well. He mumbles something fierce. But, and again, Mile High, I don't know if you caught this or not. This was one of the BuzzFeed videos that came out several years ago. Obama was still president when this video came out. So that's why this guy said, you don't really think that racism is over because we have a black president now, do you? No. No, absolutely. In fact, every white person that I talked to during the time period that this video came out, and more specifically a few years prior, they would have said that racism has been dying down, that racism is hold on, what's this? No audio, just you. Wait, you're not even hearing me? Are you seriously not even hearing me? Fuck. Here, I want to check something out, see if I wonder if it's because I'm playing this off of the same computer. Hey, you know what? I'm going to bring this up on my phone because I think. Why are you not cooperating, phone? Oh, that's why.
Coming this year to the
Okay.
Hulu.
Yeah. Commercials. Fuck you, Disney. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that because clearly y'all ain't able to hear that. But yeah, Ronan, the reason why there's no video is because I'm not at home, so I don't have a monitor for me to plug my laptop into. So I'm having to manually do this. And the only way that I know how, because I'm so limited in my knowledge. Let's see here. Is it here? I think so. All right, let's try this.
White people must be serial killers too. Why does talking about race make you feel so
Okay,
uncomfortable?
there we go.
Is it because you think that you'll be perceived as racist if you talk about race?
You
Yes.
don't really believe that racism is over because we have a black president, do you?
Why is it so easy for you to know?
Okay. Unfortunately, that makes pausing this a little bit more difficult. But yeah, so that guy just asked the question of, why do you think that racism is over? Racism is not over. If in fact, if anything, it's gone up. Black Lives Matter proved that.
Over because we have a black president, do you?
Why is it so easy for you to notice when there are no white people around, but you hardly ever notice when there are no black people around?
Why is your
Probably because I myself am white. I realize that leftist sensibilities do not allow for natural reality, which is we tend to naturally recognize things that look kind of like us or things that we are more familiar with than things that we are not familiar with, things that do not look like us. This is why a couple of years ago they had that study that suggested that babies may be quote unquote racist. It's because odds are, salute to you too, my brother. Okay, so basically, white baby comes out. They are more than likely going to like seeing other white people than black people because they themselves realize I am white because my mommy is white, my daddy is white. That's what I'm used to because that's what I'm around all the fucking time. Now, as for how that works with like mixed babies, I have no idea. But I would imagine the same thing is true with black babies too. And therefore the same thing with black people, especially black people who vote to the left.
When there are no black people around.
why is your goal to be colorblind?
Why is your goal to be colorblind? Because I don't want to be a fucking racist. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and let this guy play his.
So many different types of people in the world, yet you can't see color?
Okay. This is something that I've noticed with a lot of left-leaning people who don't like the phrase colorblind, especially here where I work. I work at a community college, which means not only do we have an HR department, but we also have an Office of Diversity. In fact, the full-on name is like Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. So yeah, basically all this leftist Marxist bullshit. And for whatever reason, at one point, it was decided that every single full-time employee on this college, regardless of position, regardless of department, regardless of whether or not they did anything wrong, had to go through at least one PPI training course, which, what did PPI stand for? Power, Privilege, and Inequality, or something like that. I don't remember. But basically, it was classes of this is why white men are bad, why white men are bad, why straight men are bad, why Christianity is bad. Just basically trying to make the straight white Christian male sound like the spawn of Satan and everybody else is his victim. There were at least 2 of these classes that I went to where they said color blindness means completely ignoring the fact that these people have a lived experience, that because they're black means nothing so much that the reasons here means nothing and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that's not what it means. And I even said this to her face. I'm like, that is not what it means. I know because I'm one of these people who says I am colorblind. This is an expression that I first heard from a Christian music group, which included a black person who wrote a song called Colored People. We strive for this because that concept is something that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in one of his most famous speeches of all time, where he said, I'm going to get the exact wording on this. Sorry, I'm going to have a Joe Biden moment where he was saying, I have a dream that my children will live in an America where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of their character. And I'm pretty sure I did a much better job than Joe Biden ever would have done, even if he had a script. But that's kind of the idea of the whole color blindness. But they want to make it seem as if, though, like me being colorblind means I completely ignore the fact that you may have possibly grown up in a crime-riddled, gang-infested, drug-y, war zone place like Chicago or Baltimore, because I haven't been there. I'm white. I can't relate to it. Da 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 da. It's like, no, that's not what it means. It's more accurate to say that it means I'm not going to automatically assume that you're going to steal my stuff or rape my sister because you're black. Okay? I don't automatically assume that because you're black, because I'm not a racist. That's the idea of it. But leftists, in their typical leftist fashion, are too fucking stupid to understand a simple concept.
Yet you can't see color?
Okay, so the category that just popped up said curiosity.
You want to say the N-word so badly.
No. I just said the N-word. No, as far as wanting to say the N-word so badly, I don't like saying the N-word. The only times that the only times that I will admit to saying the N-word, there's two moments. The first one is there have been some times where I'll be listening to these types of stories while I'm at work by myself, no one's around, and I will call someone that word because of rap. So what I mean by that is there's a couple of rap bands who, they will actually quite literally say that in their lyrics. I'm an N-word, so I will say that along with it as well. That's it. The other time is educational purposes. And I actually did one of these about 3 weeks ago, maybe a month. My son and I were looking at a Wikipedia page that had categorized all the flags of the world based off of colors. And, we're looking at some of the rarer colors like purple, pink, orange. And Niger came up as one of the colors. And he was like, where's that one? And he said it as the dreaded N-word. And I gave him one hell of a death stare. I'm like, I am going to slug you so hard right now. I didn't actually say that, but boy, that thought was definitely in my head. And I was like, okay, first of all, that is the bad word that I have told you about before not to say. Second, this is pronounced Niger. It's not the same word. It's technically not even related to it. Okay? Niger is the country. What you just said was a bad word. So that's the other opportunity for educating the young ones.
So badly.
If I don't use it, what makes you think you can?
Why do you
I don't use the N-word, so you're not allowed to. No, that's not how languages work. You can avoid saying it all you want to. But as I had pointed out, there are plenty of blacks who use it all the freaking time, including in their music and other forms of entertainment. One of my absolute favorite times of hearing a black person using the N-word was back in WCW, World Championship Wrestling, where Booker T called Hulk Hogan the N-word. Make sense of that, please. This guy was so used to calling people the N-word that he called the whitest of whites, the guy whose entire gimmick during his time in WWF was to be a white redneck. Kind of like Steve Austin. Calling him the N-word makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. So you know what? As far as I'm concerned, the fact that the word even exists means that I should be allowed to say it in certain contexts. You not saying it because of a personal choice is ridiculous. That's like saying that just because religious people don't use the Lord's name in vain, that you cannot use the Lord's name in vain. You cannot say Jesus Christ in a way that's almost like a swear word because you kicked a table or something like that. You can't do that. That's a no-no because a Christian chooses not to do that. That sounds dumb. It's the same thing with that particular argument against white people saying the N-word. Other arguments I can understand because it is a derogatory term, but you not saying it as a personal choice is a terrible argument against white people saying it at all.
you always want to touch our hair?
Who told you it was okay to touch people without their permission?
Why?
Okay, now I let those two questions go together on purpose. Why do you always want to touch our hair? I don't. I, for one, only like to touch the hair of people that I'm about to have sex with, and that's it. Okay, no, I take that back. I take that back. It is kind of fun to mess with the hair of my son and my nieces and nephews, kind of playing around a little bit depending on what's going on. And in the case of my son, sometimes I'll be touching his hair because I'm trying to make sure that's actually clean or whatnot, because I'm his parent. I should be responsible for him, especially since he does such a terrible job with washing his hair in the shower. Oh my gosh, I want to slug this kid. I'm kind of wishing I was at home now so I can drink my sorrows away. I'm kidding. I'm kidding about that. But no, he does a terrible job of washing his hair. So oftentimes I'll have to check to make sure if he actually washes it or he just scrubs one little area. This is how he usually washes his hair. And I know this because I've watched him do it. He'll take the shampoo, he'll have it lathered up in both of his hands, and he'll put it kind of in the back area of the head and just kind of lightly move his fingers a little bit. He doesn't even move his hands. He just keeps it stuck in that one little area. I'm washing my hair. No, you're not. But so with that thought process going along, I don't want to touch your hair. I don't want to touch any black person's hair unless I'm shagging said black person. And that's because I'm shagging them, not because, I wonder what their hair feels like. The following question does bring up a point. Who told you can touch someone without their permission? Now, I don't know of a single white person who ever just reached up and grabbed a black person's hair because they were curious on how it felt. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen, especially since I don't really see a whole lot of black people in general. I think a lot of it's just because of where in the country I live, as well as, especially now because of the hours that I work. The only black people that I see are my boss and sometimes my boss's boss. They're both black guys. And neither one of them have hair. They're both bald as fuck. So I clearly don't want to touch their hair. But, it's like, I can't relate to this. But I will say it's not okay to touch people's hair, regardless of their race. It's not okay to touch anyone, regardless of their race, without their permission. I understand this concept. It's not a race issue. It's a manners issue.
You always want to touch our hair.
Who told you it was okay to touch people without their permission?
Why do you feel like having one black friend makes you a cultural expert or not a racist?
Okay, so it was Captain Mumbles who just went, so I don't know if you guys heard that one all right, but he was asking the question of, why do you think that because you have one black friend that automatically makes you a cultural expert or not a racist? So let's start with that second last little bit, not a racist. Simple. A racist would not be friends with the race that they hate. Oh my God, how is that so difficult to understand? If I hated black people, I would not befriend them. I would stay the fuck away from them or kick them or something. I wouldn't be their buddies. I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't help them. I wouldn't spend time with them. I wouldn't befriend them because I would be a racist in this theoretical situation. Not difficult. What the hell does that have to do with being a cultural expert, though? That's what I find to be kind of interesting. Where the hell did that come from? Now, I could see this being more of a specific location. I don't remember if these assholes live in the New York area, like New York City, or in LA. It's one of those two. But given the racial demographics of many of their neighborhoods, it could be possible that a white person had grown up surrounded with mostly black people and therefore mostly black friends. In fact, one of my coworkers, he lived his life like that for most of his life when he lived in the Oakland area. He lived in Oakland, San Francisco, and a couple of other cities in that area during most of his life. Most of his friends were black. His music taste is rap music. That's what he knows. That's what he's familiar with. Now, as far as a cultural expert goes, he is by far more of a cultural expert when it comes to, Black American culture compared to me. So it's because of his experience. It's because of what he was raised with. That's why. So this idea of having just one black friend, I don't know of any white person who would think they're a cultural expert because they have one black friend. That seems a little odd. I'll even use some modern day internet lingo. It seems sus that you would think this.
Why do you feel like having one black friend makes you a cultural
repeat the
expert
question,
or
okay.
not a racist?
Is your only black friend comfortable with being the reason why you can't be racist?
So at the time when I made my original response to this, I had said that I had like 4 or 5 black friends. I don't remember what it was exactly because it was that long ago. And of those black friends, there's only one who I communicate with nowadays. And I still don't think he would give a fuck. I really don't. Now, my boss that I mentioned, I wouldn't go so far as to say that he's my friend, but he and I do get along pretty well together. In fact, I even gave him some race-related advice once. He lives in, I should say at the time he lived in Portland. I don't know if he still does or not, but he was talking about wanting to move up to the county where I live, where we work at. Which, by the way, for those who are not that familiar with Portland geography, technically Portland is inside of 3 different counties. And then there's also the 4th Southwest Washington County, where a good chunk of it is, kind of quote unquote part of the Portland metro area. But he was wanting to move from his place and was thinking about moving into our county. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to give you some friendly advice, and I hope you're not offended by this. It is because you're black. I would recommend that you do not go to this area because it's the only place within this particular county, to my knowledge, where there are actual genuine racists. Other than that, I think you're good pretty much anywhere else. And he appreciated that. He respected that. And I told him this because I appreciated him. I liked him. And I want him to make a good decision. I don't want him to be like the lady who was in charge of our Office of Diversity and move to this one racist town and make it sound as if though every white person in the entire Pacific Northwest hates black people. Because I kid you not, that's what she tried to say.
By that logic, then I'm not racist. I have a ton of white friends. What?
Okay. That kind of brings me to a point that I have heard left people say that I think there is a degree of truth to. You may not be a racist, but you can do something that is racially insensitive or racist, flat out. Sure, I think a white person who's friends with black people could say or do something that could be seen as racist or racially insensitive. Doesn't mean they are a racist themselves. It just means they did something that they shouldn't have. Same thing with you guys.
Do you feel comfortable cursing at your parents?
Why do you?
Cursing at your parents. Why do you feel comfortable cursing at your parents? Have you looked at your own community lately? How many of y'all swear more often than you use any other language or any other word in the language? I have seen video footage of children younger than my son, children whose age is still a single-digit number, tell their moms to shut the fuck up, bitch. And you're asking this question to white people. Really? Like in the past, when I originally made this response video, I don't like saying swear words around my mom because of her being super uber religious. Depending on what I'm saying, and if my son is around, I may or may not say a word that's profane around my dad. But a lot of that is because he's not super uber religious like my mom is. And he himself has no problems with swearing. He will do it too, so long as my son's not around. And that also depends. I mean, he has no problem saying damn around my kid, which, I don't care so much about the word damn itself. But a lot of it depends on context. And I tell you what, I have definitely heard black people guilty of this more often than whites. So I have no idea where the hell that guy came from.
At your parents.
Why do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
Why do you kiss your dogs on the mouth? I don't have a dog. I've never had a dog. But I would imagine it's for the same reason why I and my sisters have done that with our cats. We love our pets. Okay? And I'm pretty sure there are black people who've done it before too. I have also seen more black people hate dogs, be afraid of dogs, report dogs for dumb shit than I have with white people, not including Karens. Well, I guess odds are if you're going to be doing that, you're a Karen no matter what your race is. But I guess that also depends on what you define by Karen. But point is, it's because we love our pets and we're not using them for fighting rings. Oh, I'm terrible. Boo, whiskey, boo.
At your parents.
Why do you kiss your dogs on the mouth?
Okay.
How come you can't pronounce black names like Quvenzhané, but can say names like Schwarzenegger, Galifianakis, and LaBeouf just fine?
Okay, so this was the last question before they bring up this next category, which I paused in a way towards fuzzy, so I have no idea what the hell the next category is. Actually, I think I do. I think it's Black Lives Matter. I think the rest of the questions relate to Black Lives Matter on some sort of level. But as far as his question, I'm going to slightly rearrange the question. Why is it that as a white person, you can say the names Schwarzenegger, Galifianakis, and LaBeouf just fine? Keep in mind, he said I'm just fine too. The reason why we can say these is because these are celebrities who get a lot of attention, who are constantly in the news. At this point that this video came out, Shia LaBeouf was starting to do those videos where like he's standing in front of a camera in like New York or some shit like that, and he's like, hey, well done, I mean, he was getting famous for that kind of shit. There was also a song that was around for a while, which I think was like a Saturday Night Live skit or something like that, where it was like, Shia LaBeouf. I may be getting the melody wrong on that, but yeah, Shia LaBeouf was becoming really popular during this particular time period and had been for a few years. Galifianakis, at the time, I had no idea who the fuck that was. And I actually had a hard time saying it myself because I'm like, what? Is that a dinosaur? What the hell is that? And as for Schwarzenegger, Schwarzenegger was famous before I was born. He's a long time household name. And what's funny is when he made his first movie, or was in his first movie, in the credits, they replaced his name with Strong, Arnold Strong. Why? Because the people who were typing it up thought that Schwarzenegger would have been too difficult for people to say. And yeah, it would have been at the time because nobody knew who the fuck he was. Nobody was used to saying it. We've said Schwarzenegger so much in our vernacular that it's as common as saying tacos. It's normal. Everyone has said Schwarzenegger multiple times, and they know how to say it without even knowing how to spell it because it is said so damn much. Now, the name that he says afterwards, why can you not say black names like Quvenzhané? It's funny that he chose that one because from research that I've done online before this video, he's not saying it correctly. It's the jaw part. I guess from what I've seen, it's supposed to be more like a sh. Quvenzhané. Oh, sorry. Quvenzhané. Here's another reason why it's funny that he chose that name. There's only one person in the entire fucking world with that name. Now, for those of you who are wondering, this is the first name, the given name of a girl. The most famous thing that she did that I am aware of was the black version of Annie. She was Annie. I don't remember what her last name was. But her name was a smushing of 3 different names. Daddy's name, mommy's name, and the Swahili word for fairy. So I guess technically two words, I'm sorry, 2 names in a word. There we go. It was brand new. No one had ever seen it before. So no one knew how the fuck to say it. And nowadays, I don't know what the hell she's in. I don't know what the hell she's doing. I don't even know if she's acting anymore. She's not a big household name. That's why back then, a lot of people were having a hard time saying it. Now, it's probably the same thing. Because again, now, no one knows who the fuck she is. It's about familiarity. God, these people are fucking stupid.
But can say names like Schwarzenegger, Galifianakis, and LaBeouf just fine.
Okay, yeah, Black Lives
Why do
Matter.
you feel like all lions' lives matter, but black lives don't?
Why do all lions' lives matter? All these years later, I still think that's fucking hilarious. The first Black Lives Matter question they have involves a gosh darn lion. Oh, wow. Oh, okay, so a little trip down history. For those of you guys who don't remember, trip down memory lane. Back in like 2014, I think it was, there was a dentist. And I think he was from Minnesota. I'm not sure. And yes, he was white, which means all the more reason for the left to freak out. This guy went to Africa. I believe it was the country of Zimbabwe. And he shot a lion. The left, not the whites, the left consider this to be one of the greatest tragedies of our time. How dare he hunt down a lion, which was perfectly legal in Zimbabwe. In fact, that's one of Zimbabwe's main tourist attractions. Come to Zimbabwe and shoot a fucking lion. We will take the lion's meat and use it to feed a poor village. By the way, the money that you're giving us for this experience will also go to help out this village. The left had a problem with this. The right didn't give two shits about it because most of the hunters in this country lean to the right. The left, on the other hand, is so scared of guns that Star Wars movies make them piss their pants. Slight exaggeration, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was real. Anyways, Lions' Lives Matter. While I don't think that was ever a thing, the only people who were upset about it was the left. So instead of targeting white people, target leftists, left people. Ask morons in your office this question, not strangers on the internet.
Why do you
repeat the
feel
whole
like
question
all
again.
lions' lives matter, but Black lives don't?
Oh, that's right. The second half of the question. So why do you think lions' lives matter, but blacks don't? Okay, let's pretend that I was one of these people who was like, oh no, the poor lion. Oh, Simba, poor lion. Go Detroit. This is so fucking dumb. Oh, I feel like I need a drink. I really do. Oh. Okay, I can breathe. I swear I can breathe. Okay. So let's pretend that I was one of these idiots. Black lives don't matter. That's what you're saying that I believe because I'm white and I care about a lion. That's ridiculous. See, this is one of those kind of questions that anybody who has an IQ above 70 should realize doesn't make sense because you're taking an issue that the left once had for a while and combining it with a stance that's inaccurate from the right. And you're somehow conflating this about race. Like this is a stance that one particular race has, like it's one thing. And they don't relate to each other. It's like it's saying, why do you support veganism, but yet you love driving a Hummer? The hell do those things have in common? So, that being said, I think Black lives matter in the sense of they're human beings, but the Black Lives Matter organization is a certain type that I think the YouTube overlords would freak out over. Because it begins with a T and it ends with a T. They're also a scam organization. All the money that they have raised by people donating, which is mostly white people who are feeling bad because they're white and they've bought into the whole leftist narrative, that money has gone to pay for mansions that belong to the people who run these organizations. Not a whole lot of it has gone to the actual black communities that these funds were supposed to go to help. At least not the last that I heard. So I have no respect for the actual BLM organization. Add to it that 100% fine with anything that's anti-white. Oh, a white person was killed in Portland a while ago. Granted, by another white person, but that white person who was the murderer supported Black Lives Matter. guy's a fucking hero. Yay! White on white crime is so great. Yay! Jazz hands. And there was a lady. Oh, wow. Sorry, I almost killed myself there. There was a lady in Portland who was screaming out on a megaphone. Should I feel bad that a person was killed? Fuck no. He was white. Oh my gosh, if any white person said that about a black person, especially unironically, that person would be canceled, would probably be getting calls from the FBI. We might never see that person again. Because God forbid you say anything about Black Lives Matter. Fucking ridiculous. I remember, like, what was it, 2015, I think, where there was one particular BLM protest, which we all know what that actually means, where there were white people in attendance. Black people took offense to it, beat the crap out of the white people to the point where one of them almost died. Black Lives Matter didn't give two shits. They were fine with it. Oh, they're just white people. Who gives a fuck? No one cared. No one cared. Not even other white people. So, you know what? You want to be like, oh, why don't you think Black Lives Matter or Black Lives don't matter? Screw you. Screw you, lady. It's not a matter of skin color as far as I'm concerned. It's a matter of whether or not you're a decent person. And you know what? That can be black people, that can be white people, and shitty people can be white. They can be black. And the same concept applies to all races too, but obviously we're just talking about blacks and whites for this one.
Why is a lion's life in Africa more important than the lives of black people here in America?
Name one person who thinks that. One. I do not give two shits about Cecil the lion. Hell, if I had the money to do it, I would go to Zimbabwe and take a lion out. That would be one hell of an experience. Plus, I'd be feeding people. My only physical trophy would be a picture of the lion that I took. That I took their life. That's it. As far as I know, that's the only memento that the hunter in question got. That's all I would need. The experience, and sure, why not have a picture? Hey, I shot this. Look at how cool of an experience that was. Oh yeah, and people got to eat. People got to eat money. People got to eat money. People got to eat the meat. People got to take my money and use it to hopefully help better their lives a little bit. What have you done for these people, by the way? Oh, yeah, you pretend to care while you whine and bitch about lions.
Here in America. What did Simba ever do for you?
What did Simba ever do for you? Entertain me.
Get it? Lion King was an awesome movie.
Yeah.
And so was Selma, and so was Malcolm X.
Why?
Okay. So was Selma, so was Malcolm X. Who the fuck cares? What does it have to do with this topic? So was Malcolm X. Yeah, so was To Kill a Mockingbird. Why didn't you bring that one up? At least that one, they put in effort to make it good and appealing to everyone instead of making white people feel bad about something that did not happen, by the way. Well, I mean, Malcolm X was a real person, but I'm almost willing to bet that the accuracy of that movie is about as accurate as Woman King or whatever the fuck that movie was. You know, the one with Viola Davis where she's leading a troop of African female warriors to kill the big bad evil whitey. I feel better. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that movie was called The Woman King or something dumb like that. But yeah, make a movie that's historically accurate, somewhat historically accurate. Next one.
So was Selma, and so was Malcolm X.
Why is it so hard for you to acknowledge your privilege?
Because I don't have privilege for being white. I hate to break this to you. Actually, no, I don't hate to bring this. I love to bring this up to you. I do not have jack shit in terms of white privilege at all. Have I been stalked by police? Yes, I have. I've even had a gun pulled on me before. Not because I had anything in my hands, but because I had my hands behind my back. Which At the time, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but this was at a time where I had just transitioned from living in a small town where I knew the police department because they all went to school with my parents to a big city where crime is far more likely to happen, where I didn't know jack shit of anybody. Made sense. So when the cop pulled his gun at me and was like, back up, get your hands out where I could see him. I can see where he was going with that. I understood at the time where he was going with it. It freaked me out at first. So my white skin didn't save me there. Compliance did. Where else is white privilege supposed to be so prevalent in my life? I scrub toilets, for fuck's sakes. How the fuck am I privileged? Oh, you're privileged because you have a job that's guaranteed 40 hours a week and insurance and coverage and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that came from work. And I will admit, part of how I got the job was because I was connected. I knew someone who already worked in the departments. But the most that did was it gave me a reference. The guys involved with the actual hiring process, and when I say guys, I am including the gals involved, they could have looked at it and be like, oh, he likes this guy, so fucking what? That's it. I could have been denied this job just on account of nobody thinking that I was good enough to do it. I mean, granted, I scrubbed toilets. That's fucking it. And I had to work as a part-timer for 2 years before I got this position. Usually, at least with the school that I'm working at, if you're a part-timer for more than a year, you're gone. Usually because you choose to. I chose to stuck around, partially because I just didn't feel like looking. And I lived close by. But, yeah, honestly, I'm kind of regretting it now. I should have looked for a job as soon as I could have. And who knows, maybe once I get a new car, new for me, by the way, I've never once owned a new car. I've never had anything new or nice in my entire fucking life. I've lived in apartments and rental homes my entire life. I've never once lived in a home that I owned or my parents owned, unless you want to include the mobile home that my mom currently lives in. I've lived in one of those for 5 years. It's not my home. It's hers. And it's a shitty mobile home where like 95% of the space is taken up by her shit that she's collected because she's a fucking pack rat. Yeah, I'm so privileged.
But so was Selma, and so was Malcolm.
Wow, this
Why
really
is
went
it
far
so
back.
hard for you to acknowledge your privilege?
How does it feel to not be the spokesperson for your entire race at any given time?
I want to know. No such moment exists. At any point, someone who's not white, be they black, be they Asian, be they Hispanic, be they whatever, could see me as a white person, come up to me and ask me one of these types of questions. Why is it that white people can't eat spicy food? I don't know. Ask a white person who can't eat spicy food. I fucking love that shit. Give me some ghost pepper sauce. Yum, yum, yum. I mean, my mouth likes it. Basically, anything from my stomach on down doesn't. But I think a lot of that is just because I'm fucking old now. Well, older. I don't know if 40 necessarily counts as old anymore. But those opportunities exist for anyone at any given point when you're in a country where diversity is a thing. Especially if you live in one of these larger cities where diversity is not only a thing, but in a lot of places it's kind of forced upon you. All right, let's go ahead and try and play this. It's almost done, guys. I promise. It's almost done.
How does it feel to not be the spokesperson for your entire race at any given time?
Must be nice.
Oh, I guess that was it. That was it. Must be nice. Must be nice. Yeah, it must be nice. It must be nice for us to eventually get to a point to where retarded leftists are not embracing racism because they think that's the only way to combat one type of racism. Okay, any white person who is out there who actually does genuinely hate other races or thinks their race, the white race, is automatically something so fucking amazing. The very, very, very few of those people out there are not going to change their minds because a group of black people made a video where they're asking stupid questions. I mean, these weren't even good questions. Well, there's a couple of them that were okay, but most of them were so damn stupid. It's hard to come up with a reasonable response to them because they're not reasonable questions. These are not going to combat racism. Hell, the constant henpecking at white people. You know, you're a bad white person. Why do you hate black people? You're a bad person, Mr. Whitey. That's not going to change minds. Except maybe the other way around. You might have created more racists because of this type of a narrative. Which makes me wonder if that may have played a role in the left's inaccurate portrayal of the right and Donald Trump trying to paint us as all being racist because how dare we vote for a Republican instead of a Democrat? You know, oh, it must be because they're racist. They hit Obama, so they're going to retaliate by voting for a Republican. So dumb. Honestly, I think there were more racists who did vote for Obama than those who voted for McCain or Romney, because there were a lot of people, especially a lot of black people, who were bragging that was the reason they voted for Obama. We're voting a black person into the White House. Yay, black power. That's horrible. That's horrible. Could you imagine if a white person actually said that about John McCain? I voted for McCain because we can't let the black person in. I mean, I'm not saying there weren't those kind of people. There probably were a few here and there, but nowhere near as many as the other way around. I actually seriously considered voting for Obama the first time around, not because of him being black. A lot of it had to do with why I think many of the people who voted for Biden voted for him. It wasn't a case of I liked Obama that much. It was I didn't like McCain. Even back then, I really didn't like him. I didn't think he would have made a good president. His only redeeming factor, in my opinion, was that he was a military veteran and therefore might have been the most qualified Republican candidate to get us out of the fucking Middle East. I wanted to see an attempt to end the war. I didn't think we were getting that with Bush. I think if Bush was eligible for a third term and won said third term, nothing would have changed. Now, of course, with us getting Obama, nothing changed, really. I mean, except more bombs being delivered. And by delivered, I mean dropped on places where there were children. Yeah, Mr. Nobel Peace Prize won a Peace Prize for dropping bombs on children. So, now as I've gotten older, I've come to realize that just about every... Oh, looks like Mr. Pliskin was saying something that I was about to get to. They're all paid and bought for. Yeah, I mean, exactly. As I've gotten older, I have seen just how true of a statement that really is. It's really a matter of how are they going to argue for my vote? And in the case of Trump, I truly believed he was going to do something different because I didn't really think that he was going to be bought and paid for. And yeah, some of the things that he did, I think were fucking stupid. But some of them, I truly do think that he was trying to do the right thing to the American people. Whether it was or not, I don't know, honestly. I mean, yeah, some of them were, but a lot of them, I think, we'll never really know for certain, especially since he was just a one-term prez. Thank you, cheaters, for that, by the way. I think it's going to be quite a while before we see a president who's not paid and bought for, if we ever do. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this country rips itself apart before that happens. So, and yeah, exactly, Mr. Pliskin. Lobbyists have all of them by the balls. in 2016, Trump wasn't even my pick for the Republican side. He was like, okay, so there was 17 at one point. Out of those 17 or so, Trump was number 4, I think. He was definitely in the top 5, but I think he was specifically number 4 for me personally. My number 1 guy was Ted Cruz, and that was mostly because he portrayed himself as being a constitutionalist, wanting to preserve the original intent of the Constitution as much as possible. And I respected that, and I thought it was very important for that because it was clear and obvious that the Democrats wanted to destroy the Constitution and just, have us be a communist hellhole. Carly Fiorina was another one. I will admit, part of it was because she was a woman. But a lot of it also had to do with what I liked about Trump, which was she was a CEO. She understood how money worked. And she wanted to, again, according to what she was claiming, she wanted to try to help fix our economic situation, to try and reduce our national debt if possible, or at least slow its growth down. And those were things that I also considered to have been important. Plus, I think it would have been kind of funny, okay, so it came down to Hillary and Trump, right? Many of the women, especially the feminists who were all about Hillary, what was their main argument? The future is female. We got to vote a woman president. Okay, well, what if instead of Trump, it was Fiorina? Hillary Clinton versus Carly Fiorina. What now? The candidates are all women. Why vote for Hillary? Can you come up with something fact-based? And let's even add it a little bit further. And I've actually said this before to people here at the college that I work at, back when this was still kind of a somewhat new topic. So we're talking like 6-7 years ago. What if it comes down to Carly Fiorina and Bernie Sanders? What's going to happen to your whole woman president's future is female nonsense? Are you going to postpone that for at least 4 years because you want a commie in there, or a commie wannabe? You want a socialist? You want someone who got caught on video footage singing the Soviet national anthem on his honeymoon as the president? That matters more than a woman? Like, where the hell is your priorities? Oh, that's right, you're leftist. You don't have priorities. You don't have standards except double standards. And even that, I don't think you have, some of you. Here's a really good point that Pliskin's made. Don't think many will fully understand how well Trump handled Rocket Man. That is a very good point. Very good point. Rocket Man's, how do I want to put this? Rocket Man's ruthlessness toned down a lot because he understood that Trump wasn't fucking around. I think China understood that too and was willing to work with us to help make peace a thing. Trump was the first president to ever set foot in North Korea since the peninsula split in half. First. He tried to get the ball rolling. And to be entirely honest, I think had Trump been allowed to, had Trump won a second term, there might have been even more progress made. Maybe. It's really hard to say what could have been. It sure as hell wouldn't have been like what we got with the kid sniffer in chief we have now. That's for damn sure. Yeah, Russia too. Russia got involved with it too. But, fuck, where was I going with this? I just started doing this whole fucking rant. Yeah, fuck it, whatever. It's almost midnight where I'm at. I probably should be getting to work here pretty soon. So that was actually kind of fun. Nice little trip down memory lane, roasting the fuck out of old BuzzFeed shit. I'm hoping that the next video that I do is going to be responding to something a little bit more on the news side, and hopefully during a time where I'll have a slightly bigger audience than just 3. No offense, guys. I mean, I love that you guys are here, but I want more than 3 people. And hopefully it'll also be where I'm at home and I've got things connected and I can do that split screen cool stuff so that way I can do a better job of streaming like what I'm doing now. I mean, I think what I tried has actually worked out fairly well. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great night. It looks like Mr. Pliskin, looks like you're having a fun time. Oh, I'm going to scale back a little bit. There wouldn't have been a Russia invasion. You're damn skippy there wouldn't have been. Trump was the first president in a long time where there was no new wars that was declared. Russia invaded Crimea when Obama was president. Russia didn't do shit when Trump was in office. And very, very shortly after Biden gets sworn in, full out invading Ukraine. Why? Putin respected Trump. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that Putin feared Trump, but he respected Trump enough not to get into this war situation. He sensed weakness in Obama, which I think was obvious based off of certain pictures. Like, I've seen some leftists post online this video footage where Obama's like standing next to Putin. They're like getting close to each other. And I'd say that they're like doing like a face-to-face stare down. But Obama's got a decent amount of inches on him compared to Putin. And so, Obama's kind of looking down. And they're trying to do this whole thing where it's like Obama's not scared of Putin kind of a thing. And I'm like, yeah, look at the entire picture. It's not cropped it out. When you zoom out and you see the full picture of what was taken, Putin had Obama by the tie and had pulled him in. It looked like he was going to say, "You're my bitch, Obama. Bend over." That's what it looked like to me. It did not look like Putin was intimidated by Obama. It looked like they were about to bang with Putin being the buck. So Putin and Trump, they got along well enough as far as I'm concerned, as national leaders should. Just because they're not trying to kill each other, it doesn't mean they're allies. It doesn't mean they're best friends. And the left does not, well, I'm not going to say they don't understand that, because I think they do understand it. They just don't care. They cared more about the agenda. So when Trump left, Biden comes into place. They're like, oh, yeah, Putin's going to be scared of Biden. Oh, please. No, the only people who are scared of Biden are children. Okay, and we've seen video footage of stuff. We've seen Biden do stuff with kids on national broadcasts. We haven't seen anything like that with Trump. All we've gotten with Trump is hearsay at most. We've seen Biden do this live on national television, sniffing kids, groping kids. They're the only people who are scared of him. Nobody's scared of Biden. Nobody respects Biden. How many international gatherings have there been with leaders where Biden's like pushed off to the side to where no one's paying attention? When Trump was in office, he demanded respect because he was the leader of the free world. Biden's literally a fucking puppet. And I do mean that in more ways than one. It's insane. Yeah, exactly, Mr. Pliskin. It's ludicrous. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. I think I mentioned down in the description that I'm thinking about doing a stream where I play video games. There's a few that I'm thinking about. None of which are like brand spanking new. Like, I think the newest game that I'm thinking about was made in like 2013, 2014, something like that. There's one game that came out in like 2004, 2005, something like that. It was an Xbox original exclusive, but I got it on Steam. I used to play the shit out of that game. I loved it. So I would like to see how much of it I remember. And then there's a fighting game, kind of like Street Fighter. Well, actually, no. From the video footage of it, I've never played this game in particular. I think it's actually more of a polygon style fighting game, so like Tekken. If I'm understanding it correctly, I'm thinking about getting that game. I'm also thinking about playing Clue. me up against at least 2 CPUs, trying to find out who killed Mr. Body. I fucking love Clue. It's always been my favorite board game. So, oh man, look at this. You should do a collab with Frost and Red Ranger sometime. I would love to do collabs in general with people. Quite a while ago, I had reached out to Manic the Manic Mechanic about being involved with one of his game play days, and he sent a link to me to have it happen, but it was like 10 minutes before it was supposed to happen, and I didn't know about it until like 2 days later. Which, in his defense, he sent it to me on Discord. I don't really like Discord. I don't spend a lot of time on it. And it's mostly because every time I would download Discord onto my computers, no matter what kind of computer it is, no matter how new it is, no matter what condition it's in, it always made my computer run super slow and shitty. I hate Discord. And it's only been as of late that I've learned that you can just go to their website and it functions just the same, at least in terms of what I use it for, which is basically to communicate with people. So I do want to do collabs at some point. Like actually reaching out to people and contacting them and be like, hey, I'm available at this time. What works for you? Yeah, look at that. Somebody agrees with me. Discord sucks. I fucking hate Discord. I have no idea why it's so damn popular. But yeah, I would like to. I do like Frost. I'm gonna go back to this one. I do like Frost, so I would be willing to do one with him. I gotta be honest though, I don't recall ever having an interaction with Red Ranger, so I don't know what he's like. I'm not saying no. I'm like, who the fuck is that? Have I ever talked with him? But yeah, I'd be down for it. Sure. I'll hit up Frost. Oh, thank you, Pliskin. I would appreciate that. Because honestly, I don't know how to get a hold of him. I don't know how to get a hold of anyone, to be entirely honest. Except Hammerhand. I have his email as well as Undead Chronics. I think I have James Von Maxwell as well. Don't quote me on that though. I would love to hang out with James, to be entirely honest. Remember how earlier I was mentioning that my YouTube channel was originally called Tessa Fowler for Wife? Well, it was around this time period that James was starting off his channel, and we were in someone's group chat, kind of like what you guys are in right now. I don't know why I said kind of. It is one of those. And at the time, his sub count, it was either at 90 or he needed one more to hit 90. And he was asking people, hey, come and follow me, please, because I want to get more than 100. And I'm like, oh, hey, I'm almost there myself. I'm at like 90, what was it, 95, 94, something like that. And so we followed each other. We subbed to each other. So I'm like, cool, I'm growing. Mwahaha. And the next time that I see him, I've gained 1 sub, and he had like 200. I'm like, damn, at least one of us is growing. Oh no, but as far as I'm concerned, James definitely deserves it. He's fucking amazing. He's a great guy, amazing voice, which is, he that not including moments when I do that. I think I've got a pretty good radio voice as well. In fact, I did college radio for a couple of years in my past, but he actually did it professionally for a while, which I could totally believe. He's got the perfect voice for it. But actually, radio is something I thought about doing for a living, to be honest. Unfortunately, my throat is getting to the point where it's starting to get all dry and scratchy, and Ranger is beyond based. Well, I would hope so, especially if he's friends with Frost. Yes, Ginger Hamster. Yeah. So, Mr. Pliskin. This reminds me. I'm the one who brought up James, but you using the emojis remind me. So the comic that I'm working on, where the character Adam Mann, in his struggle, the narrator of the story is a hamster. At the point when the story takes off, Adam has a pet hamster who I have it to where he's about a year old, a year and a half, something like that. And so the majority of the story takes place here in 2023. The very end takes place in 2026, where you see Adam is doing well. Adam walks his daughter down the aisle. He does have to pay alimony, but thanks to the Sir Yeetus-inspired character, it's not as bad as it could have been. He doesn't have to pay any child support because all of the children are now adults at this point, so that doesn't matter. And then we see the actual hamster talking with angels because the hamster's now dead. And hamsters almost never live past 3 years. So as far as I'm concerned, that's probably what would happen. So he's going to be, I'm debating on whether or not I want to give him like a halo and wings or whatnot. But yeah, he's the one who's telling the story. So, and that's because of how much I respect James, because of the whole radio voice. I could see him narrating a story like this and it being done very well. So, plus, despite this being a very, 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 very serious topic, I still like the idea of throwing in a couple of jokes here and there because I'm entertained by jokes. You want to keep me entertained enough to read a comic? Throw in some funny jokes here and there. I don't care how gosh darn serious it is. I like to laugh as well. You know, going back to the adult video star topic, some of my favorite videos to ever watch are because there's at least one funny thing that happens. It's not always necessary for me to enjoy the show, obviously, but it definitely helps. Anything can be improved with well-written, well-timed jokes. And that's what I'm trying to do as well with the entire idea of a hamster being the narrator. That and also just paying homage to somebody who I greatly respect. So, anyways, like I said, it's past midnight now, so I really should get going. So, guys, thank you for showing up. Thank you for sticking around for over 2 fucking hours. Oh my god. And yeah, hopefully the next time I do one of these, it'll be during better hours where there's more people here, more interaction, and a better setup on my end. Which, by the way, I need to contact Gone with John. I've come up with a few questions since he and I last conversed on his channel. None of them really apply, though, in this current situation just because of what I'm doing, though. But, yeah. Peace out, my brothers. And never forget that if you abuse alcohol, it will abuse you back. Have a good weekend, everyone.